Hello, this is Dr. Raz. Today I will give an example of home sales data and understanding the variation in our data. So here is an example. I have 12 home sales data. You can see the sales prices here. I have $138,000 house versus 257, 108,000, 298,000. Even I have $456,000. So I need to understand the variation in this data to make better decisions. All right, so let's build a model here. Control B. Let's choose color here. Perfect. All right, so to measure the variation in my data, I need to calculate range, variance, standard deviation, and coefficients of variation. Coefficient of variation. All right, let's calculate these values. Highlight. My computer is just slow today. Perfect. Control B, double click. All right, so range, to calculate the range in Excel, all I need to do is find the maximum data and then subtract minimum from it. Maximum value minus minimum value. And my range is $348,000. So looks like I have quite a bit of range. If you look at the average of these, you will see here average $219,000 and the range is $348,000. So that is telling me that it all depends. You cannot just assume that you can sell your house at around $220,000 because there's a big variation here. You can see the range of almost $350,000. Let's calculate the variance by using VAR function. Highlight my data, enter. And variance is obviously less meaningful because this is a square term. So I just show you here, but it really doesn't mean much. It's 9 billion dollar square. So that's why we either take square root of that value or use STDEV, which is standard deviation function right here. And if I take standard deviation of these values, that's a more meaningful result because this number is a real dollar figure. So if you look at it, the standard deviation is $95,000. What does it tell you? If your data is based on normal distribution, and in many cases, the data is based on normal distribution, like a bell curve. So the average for this data is, again, around 219.9. That's a $220,000. This is your average. Excuse me. And if I go one standard deviation from this data, basically I will reach here, which is $95,000 less than 220, right? Because my standard deviation is 95,000. So that's gonna give me $125,000. Right? Sorry, this is left hand side, right hand side. So I need to add 95,000. So 95,000. Let me just erase this. So I'm going the right hand side, not the left. So if I go here, 95,000 plus 220,000, that's going to give you $315,000. If I go one more standard deviation here, that will give me 95 more $1,000. So it's around $410,000. $410,000, right? Okay, so I go one more standard deviation here. If I go one standard deviation here, and then this value, this threshold right here will be around $125,000. And if I go one more standard deviation this way, that value will be $30,000. So what is this about? I know the normal distribution is telling me that this area right here within one standard deviation each direction from the mean is around 68% of the probability. So I know it's 68% chance that my sales will be between those two values, now 125 and 315. If I go one more standard deviation each way, then basically I'm talking about this area right here. And I know from statistics, this area is roughly 95% of the probability. So almost all my observations will be within $30,000 to $410,000. All right, so that's why standard deviation is important. That will tell you the range, so you better understand the likelihood of selling this house for a certain price. All right, so let's calculate coefficient of variation, which I really like it because it standardizes the numbers, normalize them. So this is nothing more than dividing your standard deviation with your average or mean. All right, divide by average. So average of this data is around, again, 220,000. So you are talking about around 43% coefficient of variation. So this is a good measure that shows me that there is a high variation in comparison to the mean. So I think this is the best measure because it tells you how much variation you have, and you can compare this with, let's say, another region objectively. That's it for this video. Until next video, enjoy business analytics.